FutureSounds FM. This is season 3, episode 6. And we're joined by the Dutch Vaporwave legend, the legend of mallsoft, Mr. Cat System Corp. Jont, it's a pleasure to have you with us. Haven't seen you in person since Flamingo Fest in LA. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me. It's indeed been a while. It's been a while. I'm doing good. Thank you. How are you guys doing?
Good. And we've got Thom with us as well.
Oh, pleased to be here.
But you, of course, have got some... are we allowed to talk about your big news, Jont, or is this not public knowledge? In which case we can cut. This will be the first cut within knowledge. 30 seconds. It's public knowledge. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
We seem to get a lot of members of the Dad Club onto FutureSounds. It's not deliberate, but yeah,
absolutely.
It's amazing news. I'm sure your family's like super, super excited. And
yeah.
I'm assuming it's happening quite soon, right?
End of August should be the date. So yeah.
So are you off on holiday now? Did you say for a week or so?
Tomorrow, actually. Tomorrow.
Cool. So kind of a last family with just the one kid, and a whole new world.
We're flying actually to my parents. So
right. So you're going back home, basically.
Yeah.
Cool.
2 weeks almost.
So I imagine most people know that you live in Finland, right? But you're from quite a small part in the north of the Netherlands. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. I currently live in Finland, in Jyväskylä. It's a city like 4 hours away from Helsinki, up north. And I am from the Netherlands, from Friesland, the most northern part of the Netherlands, where there's nothing but potato fields and cows. So no shopping malls. And one of those two, yeah.
But no shopping malls. Yeah, I'm sure we'll get on to mallsoft at some point. And in particular, I guess the fact that all three of us on this conversation probably have like a peculiar interest in things like shopping culture and malls, and probably didn't get to visit many when we were younger because it's quite an American phenomenon, isn't it? So, but I'm sure we'll come back to that. What's new at the moment apart from your family news? What are you working on at the moment?
That's a funny thing you ask. I've literally today been approving artwork for one of my upcoming albums, and nice. I have actually 3 or 4 new albums coming. I even lost count.
Okay, so you're pre-planning so that you can keep active during paternity leave, right?
Yeah, that too.
Yeah,
nice. And these have been in the works since, I think, 2020. Yeah, 2020. Wow. I think I started with some of these like early drafts, ideas, sketches, so to say. And sometimes it took breaks of months and months. But now is finally the time to actually release them.
Yeah,
and,
awesome.
Are you planning to take some time off when you have a second child?
I have to.
Stockpiling for this reason. Yeah, you'll have to.
Mm-hmm. When we got our first, then I tried to work and run a family and running a label. Those things they go together, but it's very, very tough, very demanding. I'm sure you guys know what I talk about.
Yeah, there are some similarities.
Definitely. Can you tell us anything about the new albums, or is any of it public knowledge, or like is there anything uniquely different to your kind of way of making music that we should expect, or is it classic? Jont?
Yeah, I think I can share some nice insights. Like you have the first to hear. I have worked on a space ambient album.
Wow.
So since 2020, I actually got it's a long story, so I'll try to keep it short. But I got a request to make an album for a company. But let's say there were many red flags, and if I would have continued with that, I would have basically lost all the rights, and I would not have been able to release anything of it. And at the time, I was like, I'm not going to do that. But I had made some demo tracks, and they were just too good or too nice to not do anything with them. So I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to make a space ambient album, whatever. I like it. So continued with that. And as I was working on that over the last 4 years already, I had this itch that I wanted to work with other people on music, like remixes and stuff. And I had done some other remix projects for the label, Red Records.
Yeah.
And I thought I want to do my own remix album. So I invited some artists to make remixes of my track. So soon you will have the standard album called Blueberries on Mars. Nice. I have mentioned the title somewhere earlier. And after that you will get Blueberries on Mars, the remixes. And you will see some familiar names. We got Pizza Hotline on there, and Desert Squid, Destiny, Zero, and a couple others. So make sure to follow. You'll check it.
So very quickly before we move on, can you tell us what space ambient sounds like? I mean,
yeah, sure.
I'm probably Tom's wider versed in micro genres, so perhaps this is a thing.
No, it's the first I've heard that used.
All right,
it made me think of Lego Velt.
Okay.
Made me think of the kind of music that Lego Velt might make.
Yeah, the space ambient is kind of the music that Lego Velt would make, and it's ambient music with spacey sounds, space themes, kind of like what you would hear on the in the background of a NASA video of just showing the International Space Station floating above the Earth, and then you hear some ethereal, relaxing, new age kind of ambient music. And
it makes me think of planetariums as well.
Yeah. And one of my bigger influences was those new age kind of tapes that you would find at a secondhand flea market or something, like with some weird cover of a planet, and then
probably given away on like a Sunday newspaper magazine or something like that.
Most likely. Or those Telcel commercials now. Space ambient.
Nice.
Yeah, and I've used some hardware synths on that. Like first used my Roland DO5 on that, which is the boutique version of the D50.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
And I actually
those are hard to get. They sold out.
Yeah, we had the Juno. We got the Juno boutique, and that I think they're quite expensive to buy now, even. But obviously, the cost of an actual Juno is ridiculous these days. But that boutique series is amazing. To be fair,
I was so lucky that I got this one. I bought it when I still lived in the Netherlands, so that was like 2019. There was no COVID yet, so that was 2019, I guess. Yeah, or early 2020, one of those. It's all so vague. I wanted that synth, and I was checking Marktplaats, which is marketplace in English. Yeah. It's like an eBay for the Netherlands, and I saw it. Some guy was selling it for a pretty good price. I don't remember the price, but it was very, very good. Like he could have asked at least 100 to 200 more. And I sent him a message. I said, okay, I'll buy it for this price. I am able to pick it up tomorrow. You okay? And he said, yeah, that's all good. And then I noticed that he got offers on the product which were way above the selling price. And then he got a message and he said, I know about the offers I get. I said, yeah, well, you kind of agreed with me on this price. So, yeah. And he was, okay, that's true. So I got it for a very good price. And after that, you never saw them online anymore. Like, I don't see them anywhere, not even here in Finland.
Is it bad that I feel sorry for him?
Yeah, you financially ruined him.
Maybe.
He's probably still curses himself now.
I was
for €5.
Let's say that
you should message him and say, like, just so you know, this has really been put to good use, and maybe you could send him a copy.
Send him a copy of the record.
Yeah, that's a really. Nice idea.
I did. I went to his home and he had like so many synths in there. He had, I don't know what it was, a new workstation by Korg or Roland, and that that thing is the same price as a new car. So
Yeah, they cost thousands, don't they, those?
yeah, I think he was also a music teacher or some sort, worked with classical music, synthesizer stuff, and we talked about music, and I told him when I'm home I'm going to send you a CD. So I sent him a package of like, this is stuff I make. So I sent him Building a Better World and some other stuff I had. So he knows it's in a good place.
Awesome. It's probably a good time to ask. Tom, you got a question for Jont about?
Yeah, I've got some questions on this theme actually, and it kind of relates to one of our previous. So we had Desert Sandfields Warm at Night on the podcast sort of fairly recently, and he makes music that's similarly to kind of what you're describing, because like there's kind of been a movement away from using samples and kind of using synths and instruments and stuff, but I'd imagine his approach is fairly different to yours, given that he's like a classically trained pianist, and I don't believe that you are. Just kind of interested to know how you kind of approach making stuff like this, kind of space ambient stuff, and other kind of original music. Like how do you go about doing it?
Yeah, that's correct. I'm very different in that way. I have literally no music theory or any. I can't play the piano at all, so I do most by ear, which I don't know. It's not. I don't want to say it's like cheating, or I don't want to call myself a good player or a good musician in such a way, but I just play what I like to hear, and from there I'm going to soundscape, like edit the sounds or add more. Of course I am now following some trainings with chords and all those things, and I have to know way more music theory for the next albums, but Blueberries on Mars is all done by ear.
We talked before about maybe for the film, but I think in person anyway, about kind of your pivot towards sample-free composition. And like I think Tom in the notes that Tom made before recording, he mentioned, I hadn't heard you saying this, but you said that anyone can make ambient music, and I guess the fact that you're not musically trained gives you, I wonder actually in some respects if it gives people who are trying to approach it from a less methodical perspective and they play by ear, does that make you feel like you're producing stuff that's more emotionally driven rather than being kind of constricted by what our rules are, Yeah.
There's no rules in music, man.
Well, yeah, that's fair as well. Yeah, that's fair as well.
Well, you got to know the rules, and then you know how to break them.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, for sure. But I guess if you're playing by ear, and if it sounds good, the chances are that you're within a rule that you don't even know that you understand anyway.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, but let's say there's a Dutch saying that you're going to meet yourself when you find out that you lack something. Like you're going to meet yourself. I definitely had times where I was blaming myself for not learned how to play the piano or the flute or whatever. Like I miss certain things, and then I feel almost like an imposter. Like I get an imposter syndrome. Like, what am I doing here? I'm just slamming some keys and hope no one notices. Something like that. It's also the artist's struggle. But then the next moment I think, you know what? It sounds good. I'm having fun. There are people who like this. And if I can do it, then, like you said, other people can do it as well. And I'm also saying these things so that people who think they can't do it will get motivated to do it.
Yeah.
To try to make music. Or,
it's almost more brave, though. It's almost more brave that you've done this, because you've come off the back of the early Vaporwave days where it was very, very much sample based. I mean, there's always been sample free Vaporwave, even from the early days, no matter what anyone says. There's always been people who've made stuff that has had the same kind of feeling and vibe that wasn't sample based, that was kind of more originally composed. However, having come off the back of that classic vapor era, where it was so heavily, and your own material was so heavily sample based, to actually take a conscious decision for presumably copyright, ownership of your own material reasons, it's quite a brave thing to do, given that you didn't have any training. Like, were you always confident that you'd actually be able to make that transition, or were you kind of playing around with that mode of composition before fully committing to jumping off in another direction?
That's a good question. I think it's kind of a mix of both. I was making Hiref, the album, in 2013, 14. And on that album, I already included some original compositions. Because in a way, I felt that I want to make the poppy sounding vaporwave that can do with samples. But I also like that ambient side of vapor, and I can do that myself. Like, I like to do that myself. And you're right, also, like, copyright reasons and ownership, which sounds kind of funny from someone who samples a ton of music. But yeah,
I'm guessing you saw that it was
uh,
going to grow, though, right? You saw it was going to grow.
Yeah.
You could see the potential to make not a career necessarily, but like, to make an earning. You run a label, like those considerations are there because it's a finite length of time that you can get away with sampling Michael Jackson without someone coming in your direction.
Yeah,
Says
that
me.
is true.
Jons, am I right in thinking? So Jay mentioned that you use like royalty-free sample sources when you do want to do kind of more sample-sounding, kind of classic vapor sounds. Is that correct, or have we got something lost in translation?
I think that I might have mentioned to you in LA that I want to do that. Yeah, I have bought some sample packs to play with. Because I think then at least I own those samples, and that's much better. But the reason I also moved away from that crate digging on YouTube is because at some point I just got this huge writer's block, and I got bored with it. Like, I've heard this one, that one has been done. There's the Weather Channel again, and I like it. Don't get me wrong, but at that time I was thinking like, no, it's all been done, or it feels like I've done it too often. And I really, really like sampled vaporwave. Like, I think it's Ocean Shores. He's also on Spotify. Makes the amazing Weather Channel stuff. Like, I love it, but I'm not going to do that myself again. I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe for fun, but I've moved kind of beyond that.
Can I throw in a slightly different angle on this then? Because I mean, this conversation triggers Jay. Returning to him is the whole AI thing. I don't know if you've had a look at Suno or any of the other kind of AI generators. What do you think of the idea of? So I know that there's like kind of a moral question around AI and the impact it will have on creative industries in the long run. But what do you think about the idea of using a tool like that to create base material? So say, for example, you wanted to do something that sounded like slowed down 80s vapor, it's 80s funk or soul, and then work with it in a classic vapor style. What do you think of the idea of using AI tools to create that kind of source material and then resampling that?
I think it could actually be the pinnacle of vaporwave.
Yeah, there's something about it that appeals to me as well.
Yeah, I mean, you're using this tool that generates something from what? What is its source material? Like, we know these images.
What it's been fed.
Those images have been given to Midjourney or the other ones, and then it builds from that. But where does it take its music from? In a way, it is sampling. It's doing exactly what we are doing. It's sampling from other records, and then
it's sampling about 1 million of them at the same time. Yeah.
So what's the difference then? What's the difference? So, but then at least you have used something that is not immediately taken from a Michael Jackson or Shack Attack or whatever,
Yeah,
then it's something that sounds similar.
I've had to play around with it just in like kind of in my spare time. I don't have much of that, but I've kind of had a leisurely play around with it, and it's quite hard to get good results. You have there's still a skill in the prompts. I've seen there's like whole Reddit threads about how to get the best out of it, and I haven't gone that deep into it yet. But it seems like quite a fun thing to do, to kind of play around with prompts. And in the same way as a lot of graphic designers, like we speak to Glenn, who does a lot of the artwork for us, he uses these tools to support his kind of creative endeavors. He's kind of got a pretty relaxed attitude to AI in general, but I think it's all about the concept, and that's what Vaporwave is fundamentally. Like if you've come up with a concept, you've created something like those prompts, then I guess it's maybe it is the ultimate like logical progression of Vaporwave. I don't know.
I think so. Yeah, definitely in this zeitgeist. So
yeah. Is the Vaporwave part the like coming up with the prompt or doing the execution? I guess that's what the difference
it's all of
is,
that, isn't it? Yeah.
I mean, coming up with a prompt is almost the same as. Okay, that's not the same as, but it kind of feels like you are writing the notes, or you're writing the music, or you're selecting samples. Instead, now you're typing it instead of
or coming up with a concept. I think we had a question about concepts actually. So we had some questions come in from Bandcamp. So a Bandcamp user called Past Paradise 99 says that they think you've got like a particular flair for kind of cohesive themes and concepts for your albums. Like, where do these ideas come from? And bonus question, what's the best idea you've not yet managed to bring to life?
Ooh, that last one is nice.
Yeah, I like it. Quite a vaporwavy question, isn't it? The unexecuted concept album. Your Chinese democracy.
He's right, or he or she, they are right about that everything's kind of interwoven. It all comes from this idea of another world, or like a dreamy world. I think I started to do it more obvious on Cosmopolitan Dreams, which is taken from Vanilla Sky, the movie. Instead of, I don't know if you've seen the movie, I don't want to spoil it for people.
Years ago.
Because it's a very good movie.
Yeah.
But let's say that you can go, let's compare it to The Matrix. Everyone has most likely seen The Matrix. Like, you're going into this virtual world. Instead, on Cosmopolitan Dreams, this person doesn't choose to go to a world of luxury. No, he chooses to go to a world where there is a zombie outbreak, like The Walking Dead and Last of Us, which makes sense because I am still a big fan of those when I made those albums, and I was thinking, like, would there be people who just want to live in such a world? I know I've seen some stuff, maybe very weird, but it kind of appealed to me in a way that I thought, like, you're living in this post-apocalyptic world, and I don't know, something drew to me in that, and I thought, like, what if some rich guy has this virtual reality world and he decides to live in that? How is that? So, and then I made this absolute corporate plastic music and used it with titles from The Last of Us and Walking Dead.
Love it.
And
very cool.
I don't think many people, I mean, I would have expected more people to send a Bandcamp message like, hey, is this about... But for some reason, not many people have done that.
Yeah, we did a Synchro Start release. I can't remember which one of them it was, but he spent great amount of time and thought coming up with a concept which was kind of contained within the J card of the cassette. And I think he had the aspiration that people would kind of pay more attention to the sleeve notes and try and come up with what the concept, kind of get an understanding of what the concept was from that. And we didn't end up getting, I don't know whether he has, I don't know whether Carl has had messages about it. But if you have got that tape, dig it out and
explore the lore.
I'll put it in the description to make sure, because I can't think offhand which one of the albums it is, but I'll put something in the notes, and then if you got the tape, dig it out, have a little read, see if you can work it out, because people come, they spend a lot of time. That's the beauty of Vaporwave. It is all about escapism, isn't it? And creating alternate worlds.
Yeah, engaging with the work as well.
Yeah, exactly. And when we interviewed you for the film, you talked about concept albums and Vaporwave being kind of the return of the concept album, which you kind of said your own personal feeling on it is like, well, shouldn't they all be like that? You know, isn't that what albums should be?
Yeah.
It should be a journey from start to finish rather than a collection of songs. It feels like an art that's been lost in some respects, and Vaporwave kind of hangs on dearly for life with it.
Billie Eilish was getting shit for that recently because she, I mean, obviously she's a generation younger than us, at least. And she was saying like, oh, you know, I've like designed this record to be listened through like continuously from start to finish. And obviously like older journalists are kind of like laughing about it because that's what albums are. But, you know, her audience are very young, and, you know, they're native to kind of Spotify playlists. They've never known anything else. So the idea of listening to an album from start to finish maybe is like a fairly radical act.
True. Yeah. That's why we have the vinyl record revival. That some people want to listen to an album again from start to finish. And I think Gen Z, I think we can call it Gen Z, right? They grew up with Spotify, YouTube, random, and play everything in random, shuffle.
Yeah,
I think most of them have. Yeah.
It's a bit like News at 11 as well, isn't it? Like pausing at that moment before that event happened. But I guess part of that is also that day ushered in 24-hour news coverage. Like, I think that all of those media corporations realized that you can get people hooked onto news all day at any hour, and it kind of changed the nature of how things are presented to us just on a constant rolling basis. And I think kind of certainly people of our age and maybe some curious younger people are turning to longer form media because it gives you a chance to kind of pause the bombardment and get stuck into something for a little bit longer than just 2.5 minutes shuffle. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm probably sounding really old, but that's fine too because I am fairly old.
I think I've recently discovered like something in between, like a transition. I like to listen to YouTube mixes nowadays. That, for example, say today I listened to, what was it, a Luxury Lobby, something like that. And someone made a YouTube mix with certain tracks in it. It's kind of like a playlist, but it was more, I don't know, the theme was more there. It had images, it had the music. It was sampled Vaporwave, so it could have been from one artist only. You don't know, not until you see the track list. It's like, oh, there's like 20 different artists, but it could have been from one single artist making an album called Luxury Lobby. And
it's a good name.
I think, yeah, someone claim it quickly.
Yeah.
But I think that could be like a transition from these curated YouTube mixes to listening to concept albums again. If that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. I think our crowd does, though. I mean, I think that is why physical media has taken a hold, because most of the people who are interested in Vaporwave, the kind of common denominator on whether it's any one of the many myriad subgenres, that common denominator is a fetish for nostalgia, isn't it? Fetish, is that the right word? You know what I mean? Like,
it's a strong word, yeah.
A nostalgic leaning. And so those kind of dead formats that maybe people grew up with their parents having, or even they had, or just like an interest in things that existed before they were born. I think that, there's definitely a lot of that in that crowd. And so people are probably more open to experimenting with that kind of stuff and those themes. Interesting.
Yeah. Is it just to bring it back to the Bandcamp question, because that last part of the question was really juicy. Like, is there an idea that you've wrestled with for a while that you haven't managed to execute? Like, are you able to divulge anything, or is it a secret?
No, it's no secret. I have a little notebook somewhere, and I write down ideas in that. And an idea I've had since ages is to make finally an original mallsoft album. kind of in the style of the Japanese ambient stuff. Wow. Again, back to ambient, but more like environmental music or furniture music. And then kind of like a vaporwavy mallsoft twist to it.
Nice. It's got a name, doesn't it? The Japanese ambient stuff.
Yeah.
Kankyo Ongaku, right?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Okay, sounds like you two know what you're talking about. Can someone explain to me what the fuck furniture music is?
Oh, big up Eric Satie. I could talk about this for
Eric
a
Satie,
very
okay.
long time.
Yeah.
That is Adam Harper, when we interviewed him for the film, said that Eric Satie was the original Vaporwave producer. Isn't he the composer of the Bureaucratic Sonata?
Yeah. There is the furniture music is so he wrote this stuff called furniture music, which he described as music to be ignored, which is like this is like early 20th century France, and it's like a precursor to ambient music. Like Brian Eno kind of gives him props as kind of being the inspiration for things like discrete music and like early ambient stuff. But yeah, music to be ignored. Furniture,
which music. I like more as a term.
It's music, yeah,
music, pre-electronic music. Very cool.
FutureSounds.
Okay, so you've given us that. That is your that one day you're going to come back to that and finish it up. Is what you're saying?
Yeah, and I can maybe spill another one. You've seen the whole barber beat movement, and people hate it, people love it. We can talk endlessly about is it the right thing to do?
Give me a hot take, Jon. Give me a hot take.
Do I dare? Will I lose fans?
I don't know.
No, I don't know. I see it more as making a mixtape or something.
Yeah.
And luckily, people also say that they plunder everything and take no credit. I mean, like, okay, then that's good. We shouldn't take credit for that, I guess. But the artwork and the whole atmosphere around it is very nice, very chill. Like I like to listen to it when I take a shower or when I'm shaving or whatever. I don't know. It's
Zero's a big fan as well, like, of the aesthetic, not the music. I think when I spoke to him about Barber Beats, he was kind of the one thing he said. In fact, I think he literally said, I'd hate it more if I didn't love the fucking artwork so much. It reminds me of like the punk fanzines. It's very like...
Yeah, Xeroxy,
Yeah, it's got that vibe. I mean, me and my brother have been working on a Barber Beats album under Timeshare 94, which is quite a change up in what we've done in the past, which is more classic vapor. But we've tried at least as much as possible to add original composition to the sampled kind of framework. So it sounds like a Barber Beats album, but there's no tracks on it which are literally just a track taken and slowed down or sped up, which I think is, I don't, you could release albums, you could release tons of Barber Beats albums and not necessarily know what the sample source are. And I still think that there's a skill to the artwork and the curation of the idea and the putting people in another world, regardless of whether people have just taken the track. And there is definitely a debate to be had around whether more should be done and whether it's a bit lazy. But I can see so much potential in Barber Beats. And you could just take the same amount of effort as people put into classic vapor. It's about sample curation and finding interesting stuff. I think the kind of controversial aspects of Barber Beats might be more about sampling down or sampling sideways with other people who are small musicians from a similar time period to yourself. I think it's quite easily to morally justify sampling Michael Jackson without returning to him repeatedly. Not for any reason other than the fact that he's made a lot of money, or the estate has made a lot of money out of that music. But I think it gets a bit more tricky when you're sampling people who are not making very much money out of their music. Potentially, there's more of a debate to be had around sampling there for me. But Barber Beats is interesting because it's taken over so much. What do you think of the current state of the vaporwave scene when you look at, we've talked about this before, but like when you look at the Bandcamp charts such that it is, how many albums seem to be Barber Beats albums? I
guess like 80% of them now. I mean, there are some very good albums of Barber Beats that I really like to listen to when I'm working or doing whatever. But sometimes I'm a bit like, okay, can you now release something else again? Can you make something else? Can we move to another sound or like yeah, I've heard it, but I don't know. There's a lot. There's a lot of barber beats out there.
But does that speak to the wider kind of health of vaporwave? Like, do you have any concerns about it? Because you've been doing this for more than a decade.
Well, it's always been kind of moving forward or branching out. Like we got mallsoft early on, and then we got the whole dream punk things, and we had some hard vapor, and I guess we can say barber beats now as well. More recently we've also seen these new jungle music coming up.
Yeah.
So it's about spilling the beans. Yes, that's also an idea I'm playing with.
Okay.
So
Nice.
there's a barber beats idea and a ambient jungle idea. I even recently got a JV 1080.
Okay.
So
well, just to let you know, you may already be aware, we have recently started a jungle label, Jont. So
maybe you have been an inspiration to why why do you think Pizza Hotline's on the remix?
yeah, fair.
So yeah, I mean, tying that all together, I think that is, at least to me, that is the current state. We see barber beats, we see ambient jungle, and I remember you asking me in London something in the line of, can vaporwave be from any time period? Does it have to be 80s, or can it be? Yeah, you asked me, can it be jungle, something like that.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, why not? Why not? Because now we see a generation younger than us. Vaporwave to them is something totally different than what vaporwave is to us. Like, we remember the 80s, early 90s, but they remember the late 90s and early 2000s.
Well, M-Rail remembers the early 2000s, yeah, like you say.
Yeah, so
he's nostalgic for Skrillex.
Exactly. And that's the thing, isn't it? It's like the world like revolves in nostalgic cycles. And I think in the early days, there was a massive kind of trend for Japanese influences and American influences. And this was another thing I asked you about before as well, but I think it's quite interesting. It's like, you're from the Netherlands. You're a European man who has an interest in things like American mall culture. Like, how much of your own upbringing and culture do you think kind of has made its way into your music? Because like for me, the jungle stuff comes from my childhood or my teen years. And so that's why I'm nostalgic for that. And when we do stuff like 3P Suites, we're kind of repackaging UK rave culture.
Making English noises, right?
As Frank says, making English noises. Like, do you think that you've ever explored your own cultural kind of upbringing?
Yeah. Maybe not so strictly in sounds, or I would have maybe made gabber music or hardcore.
Yeah.
Or
please do.
Oh man,
we work together with Neophyte, Rotterdam Terror Corp, all those things.
Yeah.
Metal Teo. I used more concepts from my youth, like television channel Eurosport.
Yeah.
Or my dad would always watch the Formula One on Sunday.
Yeah.
And kind of
You're a
Sunday
Formula One
television.
fan to this day, right?
Well, fan is maybe a big word, but yes, I appreciate the matches on TV. I will definitely root for Max if I have to.
Yeah, Fakeman and Charlie, they both watch F1 all the time. They're pretty religiously into it. I think they put their Sundays are put aside for F1 when it's on.
Yeah, my dad would do the same. If it was a Sunday and there was a race, TV on, a drink, snacks, and we would watch. So that's kind of the album Sunday Television is about, those kind of Sundays when we would watch the Formula One or some other shows that were on TV, and then I slightly Americanized it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And of course, one of the most personal ones is shopping at Helsinki, where I used all these Finnish shopping malls. again, it was kind of a foreign concept to me, but at least it was European, because I felt that I've done so many American things, like Class of '84 and Luxury Girls, I think I had done by then.
Yeah.
It was all focused on America.
Well, Double Date is an American diner kind of vibe, isn't it, as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's dedicated to Americans as well, right? It says on the Bandcamp listing, dedicated to friends across the pond.
I think so. That's what we wrote. Yeah. And so
peak Americana.
So I got kind of, I don't want to say bored with it, but there's probably a different word for that.
This is like the Clash song, I'm so bored with the USA.
Yeah. Yeah, there's other perspectives, right?
Yeah, and I wanted to showcase those. Yeah, it felt like I was, how do you say that properly? We call it in Dutch undersnowed.
I like that.
Get covered in all the noise and the snow. Like it was not appreciated, European stuff.
Yeah,
like
I think that
see it
the
anywhere.
whole Americanization of culture was something. I mean, we had our culture was kind of dominated by American films in the 80s and 90s. There's always been a British film industry that's rich and has tend to be quite independent by comparison because the relative amounts of money were quite meager, shall we say. But like, I guess with British music being British music being English spoken, you've still had, like, we've kind of punched above our weight in terms of having our culture reach across the world. You know, like bands like the Beatles, the British invasion in the 60s of bands. Like, I think that English speaking countries managed to fight back the American invasion in that sense a little bit more than some of the non-English speaking stuff. Like, you wouldn't hear many Dutch or Belgian or French artists making their way in America, you know, with some notable exceptions.
Yeah, unless and they'd be singing in English if they did make.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, they often did. They often did do English versions of their songs. I'm sure. Oh my God, why am I having a mind blank now? The French singer, creepy guy. What's his name? Yeah, he's amazing. Yeah, Serge Gainsbourg. Yeah, he's amazing. But he did quite a few English versions of songs, I think. Yeah, and it was often the way. Yeah, like, because we nearly had you appear with us. You were going to do a collab, but I don't think we ever managed to get it to work. But we were going to do a collab with you for Route in Belgium. So that would be quite nice.
Do it for the sequel.
Yeah, like Holidays in. There was a track that you were going to sample. Just like, is it Holidays in Belgium? Is that right? It's a Dutch band, and there's a song that they wrote, Holidays in Belgium. I think something like that. Just ringing any bells to you, Jorn?
Yeah, I think it could have been. It's even called België by Het Goede Doel.
Yes.
Yeah. It's about a guy who cannot find his place in the world, and Finland is too cold, and Middle East is too hot, and then he decides, wait a minute, I just should go to Belgium. It's much better. People are smiling.
There we go. Yeah, we'll have to get you. If we do a sequel, we'll get you on that. Yeah. Cool.
That's really nice. I think just like on the subject of travel and other places in the world, like you're one of the kind of better traveled European vaporwave artists. Like you've been to LA twice to perform, and we had you over in the UK. Don't really know where I'm going this. Oh yeah, I mean, I'm only really bringing this up because we've just done a live show of our own back at Folklore where you were last time. And I just think you're amongst the most well-traveled vaporwavers, and you're amongst the first to release like live vaporwave albums.
Yeah.
There's a question in there somewhere.
Yeah, what do you make of the kind of the transition? So I don't think we've spoken to you since, like, on any kind of podcast or for the film or anything, but about like the explosion of live vaporwave and how much of a difference that is. Like, what's your take on the live scene, and how do you kind of approach taking your music to people in real life?
Well, if we look at the very first Electronicon that I did,
LA, right?
Yeah.
Econ
it was
2.
actually Econ 2. It was that was one of the biggest shocks I've ever had in my life. Like,
Really?
so many fans you suddenly see in real life. And the funny thing is, I only recognized people from profile pictures or maybe their username. Like, if they would say, "Hi, I'm John Smith," I was like, I don't know. Well, then it would say like something like, "Oh, my username is Sniper420." Oh, that's you, yeah. And I was so surreal to see people in real life, and then also hearing the music live. And I think it has also been kind of a subconscious turning point for me when I thought like, oh, I should focus way more on the live performance instead of, because some tracks don't work live and some tracks do work live. And for example, Runners Club is a whole band. Like, they make actual music on stage with instruments. And I'm there with my SP 404 tapping some buttons. And that also made me think like, yeah, Vaporwave can go into this direction of playing the actual stuff, like electronic artists or like bands. And I know there's beat makers who use SP 404s or other instruments, but in a way it felt like the scene was maturing. Is that the word? Maturing?
Yeah.
Maturing?
Yeah. Makes perfect sense.
And then even then we did London, and again many people there, and we would see more gigs everywhere. And look at Jeff Vaporer.
Yeah.
He has like tours from here to there and all kinds of cities he's going to. So yeah, definitely there is room for a live scene. And well, it would not be Vaporwave or nostalgic stuff if we wouldn't release bootlegs. Like, you would see these bootlegs of Black Sabbath live at Stadium or whatever. So I wanted to capture that feeling. No one had ever done that before. So I just snuck my Zoom recorder, placed it somewhere in the back, recorded my set and Telepath set on Econ 2. And then was like, you know what? I'm just gonna release a bootleg.
Is that the one Lunatas did the artwork for?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. That's the first live Vaporwave album, isn't it? And then I think Runners Club quite quickly afterwards, they wanted us to do their set from Pad Chennington's Block Party. You guys, Tom, you and Jay and family members and stuff got involved for the Live at Pinkbird Studios live album as well.
Oh yeah,
the
for
Donor
sure.
Lens, which was fun. Yeah, it's definitely changed things, isn't it? Like, what's your favourite, of all the gigs you've played now, what's your favourite kind of live experience, do you think?
Oh, that is so difficult. I was going to say, sounds kind of cheesy, but all of them. And all of them had their unique experiences.
Yeah.
And like the very first time that I ever did something live, that I'm immediately at Econ 2 in LA.
For sure.
Meeting all those people. And then I flew back home. 2 or 3 months later, I'm invited to play at this small festival in Leeuwarden, Explore the North.
Explore the North, yeah.
And literally no one had ever heard of Vaporwave. The whole vibe was totally upside down from LA. Like, no one knew who I was. No one knew the music. No one knew how to react to this. And people started dancing to it, or maybe not. And one guy found it very awesome. He was like, "I've never heard this kind of stuff. What is this?" and then again, last year was it again in London. I also feel like I'm getting a bit more experienced in live performances. More, I don't know, it feels more natural. First couple times it doesn't feel very natural to be on stage and play Vaporwave, but then in London and LA it felt much more natural.
Yeah, it gets
it seemed that way
each time you played, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm
that.
trying different stuff, and then we had the visuals in London, which were was amazing with all those television screens.
Yeah. And that's the thing, isn't it? It's like, even if you're not doing as much from a musical creation point of view as Runners Club, who might be playing stuff live, or the guys, you know, like in various like, well, Tom and Jay do play quite a lot of keys and stuff. I'm sure there's other good examples as well. Like, it's about creating an audio visual experience, isn't it? Like, look at John's set at the Summer Slushy Fest before Econ.
Yeah, it's a slideshow.
Right? It was incredible. Like, the music blew me away, but also just the immersive visuals. And that's what it is, isn't it? It's an art movement and a music genre simultaneously. And if you've got the stuff that you need in a venue to create that space, it doesn't have to be a dance experience. It can be just a really ethereal art experience, can't it?
You're absolutely right. And even back in 2014, when I would explain to people, like, yeah, I listen to Vaporwave and I make some Vaporwave and I love it. And people ask me, what the hell is Vaporwave? I never said it was a music genre. I always said it's an art movement.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is. It's a complete package. They say never judge a book by its cover, but I was doing that on Bandcamp, judging every album by its cover.
We all do. How can you not?
Exactly. Yeah, how can you not? But then again, you shouldn't judge a book by its cover.
I think when we started, like, Time Slave and My Pet Flamingo, so this probably applies equally to Synthwave as well. I think one of the first things I really wanted to do was try to go back over the stuff that I'd missed out on by not discovering it when it first came out. And if you're looking for classic albums, I would often be, like, before I approach someone, would be maybe put off or more inspired by stuff that had really good album artwork. Because you're thinking about what you're going to blow up to a 12-inch vinyl that you hold, like, as a tangible piece of archived history of the music, and you want it to look good. You know, like, that's a really important part, and it's always been an important part of Vaporwave, almost equally as important. And Barber Beats, I've heard people say it's like maybe even that balance is even greater, shifted in the direction of the art than the music.
Yeah. I fully agree. I would have so many tabs open in in my browser, clicking all those album covers. I was like, oh, I like that one. I like that one. I like that one. I want to see this one. I want to listen to that one.
Oh, sorry, I was going to say something really dumb. I said we should bring back great music with shit album art.
Yeah. I can't think. Yeah, what's the best album that you've got that's got shit album art?
Pet Sounds.
Yes,
Beach
that's
Boys,
a great
Pet Sounds.
shout. That is a
Crap.
great shout.
A lot of 60s and 70s music. Terrible. All those 70s records where it's just like a singer sat in a wicker chair. What's that all about?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, some of Tim Buckley's album covers are dreadful, but I find Tim Buckley's, like, among my favourite music to go to that's not, like, electronic or whatever. I love, like, Sophronia is disgusting album cover. Yeah, some good music. It's not his best album, but some good music. Yeah, sorry. I think I was about to ask you whether you miss the old days, like, having been in the scene for as long as you have. Like, is there anything about the very early days where it was just a small handful of people, maybe before the money really got involved in it, and it was just people exchanging media file links, and maybe the very early days of the Bandcamp gold rush? Like, do you miss that? Like, has it lost any of its integrity or kind of excitement that it had then, do you think?
Sometimes maybe. But then again, we are now, what, 10 years older. It's 10 years ago I started this stuff.
Yeah.
You change as a person, the music changes, social media changes, internet changes, media changes. Everything's different from 10 years ago. We would be on Facebook Messenger, just sharing albums, talking. But who uses Facebook Messenger nowadays? Who uses, well, some people use Twitter still, but a lot of people moved away. We got Discord now, many groups. Everything's changed, and yeah, you can be all nostalgic thinking back to 2014, 2015 and think like, oh yeah, those were the days. But I don't want to become that, old man yells at cloud. Like, I'm going to embrace those times. I've been there. I've done it. They were great. Yes, I think back. But we're also in the here and the now. Like, we're now in 2024. We have different kind of media. Barber Beats is big. Everything just keeps evolving, and you just kind of roll with it. And then who knows, from maybe another 10 years into the future, we think like, oh man, 2024, that were the days.
Yeah.
At least that's what I think.
You can only discover something once for the first time. And that is like the nature of everything. Everything that you ever fall in love with, like that first kind of early days of a romance, whether it's with like a partner, whether it's with, like a love affair with music, like the same, you can't feel the same way. And also a lot of the people that you experienced it with the first time in the early days, they're not necessarily as committed to it as long as you are. So the fact that you're still involved a decade later, by very logic of just natural drop off, there's going to be a lot of people who haven't followed the course. There's a lot of new people who have a different interpretation on stuff, and I still find myself being excited by it, don't get me wrong. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think that we're kind of in the end cycle of vaporwave or anything like that. It's just it's an established genre now, which seems to have its own fluctuations and changes, but it's different. It's definitely even different from when we got involved. So can I ask you, before we wrap up, we've got a couple of little fan questions that we can run through as kind of quick fire questions, but I think we should ask you about Hiraeth, the Welsh word, which is I know what it means, and a lot of people will already know what it means, but perhaps for those who don't, that kind of underpins your personal take on vaporwave, doesn't it? And like, what's it like running that label?
Yes, I will answer. Give me one sec. I needed to look up the actual definition, and I will build from that. Because I need to quote this. Let me see if I find the correct one. So the Welsh word Hiraeth, I hope I pronounce it correct. I'm probably butchering it even.
Hiraeth, that's fine.
Yeah.
Different parts of Wales pronounce it differently anyway.
Aye, true. Well, the definition is a homesickness for a home to which you cannot return, a home which maybe never was, the nostalgia, the yearning, the grief for the lost places of your past. And in a way, I think that is the perfect definition of vaporwave, and even of sometimes how I feel or how I think or how I dream. Like I feel homesick for a dream that I had, or I think about this place that may not even exist. I use it in my music, and then I used it for my label. I thought like I have to get these albums together that transport you to a different place, a different time, or a world that may have never been, and you kind of feel this homesickness to it. Like you want to go back there, but how can you? You've never been there. It's not even real. And I think that is a true, almost like a vaporwave definition, and something we can build from. Like collect these albums, and that's why I named the album the label like that.
Wow. Where did you even encounter the word? How did you discover it? It's like an obscure Welsh word.
I think it's actually the first thing I have ever found on Tumblr. When I'm thinking, I don't know. I think that was it. Because I have almost never ever seen the word outside of that. Or, of course, now you can type it into Google and you see it everywhere. But when I found it in 2013, it wasn't anywhere.
I think the word found you.
Yeah, must have been. Yeah. I mean, sometimes people say like, what is that word? What does it mean? Why even use that? And then I'm like, well, it's the only word that can describe how I feel sometimes. Or like when I wake up from a certain dream, this word describes how I feel.
Yeah, and that is incredible.
With albums that I've created, this is the word that ties them all together.
Do you know, I think that a lot of vaporwave producers would share that philosophy without necessarily knowing the word, without necessarily having encountered it in such a kind of profound way. Like the fact that you've managed to find one word that encapsulates everything that you believe in, and like kind of like your whole attitude and approach to making the music. Like I think that's exactly how I feel about it, and I'm not even sure I ever knew I did. Like everything, or repackaging your own nostalgia, and they're often like, you only remember the good sunny days of your summers when you were a kid. You don't remember the shit days when you were stuck inside and you didn't do anything. You remember really warm sunny. I remember like Euro 96, and it being, I think it was the warmest summer of all time in my dreams, but I'm sure it wasn't. It was just a really good England performance in the European Championships. And it's like, I just finished my GCSEs, and I think it was just, I felt like I was growing up, and it was super exciting to be alive. And that kind of era, I'm super well excited to kind of nostalgically look back on. But I'm probably massively selectively remembering what happened at that time. And that's kind of what it's all about, isn't it? It's like, yeah, where do you want to go as well in your thoughts? Where do you want to go? Where do you want to take people? It's crazy.
See, you should make an album about that now.
But I guess about the boring bits. That's the thing. But we have, though. Yeah, maybe the boring bits. Yeah, make an album about the boring bits. But I think we have made album. I mean, that's what Groot is. It's like an album about going to see my family in Belgium when we were younger. And like, it's kind of embellished too, because we didn't spend as much time as I'd like to think that we did. It was a few trips, but there are things that were really special to me. And my nan being Belgian, that side of my family being Belgian, is like super important to who I am. I think it's because my father passed away when I was quite young, and I didn't like ever really get to click with him in the way I should have done. Like I've got quite an idealized idea of what it was like having him around when he was around. And so like when he didn't exist anymore, I've always lent back into the things that were there, and that's my nan, this really strong character, and her whole like Belgian family, and like finding a place. Like, who am I? Like I'm not just the son of one of my mum. Like my dad's not here. Like I've got a whole family history I can lean into. It felt like exotic to me, this idea of Belgium. So, sorry, I'm making this about me, but I think it ties into what
I think Vaporwave is quite therapeutic, though, isn't it? I think we all kind of process our past with the music.
Yeah, and Weekend Rush as well. That was like about the pirate radio era, and I was slightly too young to have been involved in it, really. Like I played on a few stations and stuff, but I massively looked up to the people who were slightly older than me that were able to go to raves, who were playing on stations, and that kind of era just passed me by. And like I'm finding, like my mate who's really into, used to be really into this music with me when we were younger, always thinks it's hilarious that somehow like 20 years later I found this way to graft my original ambition as a teenager to be a proper DJ like into this new scene where it's like, no, that's just jungle, he says. I'm like, no, it's nostalgic. I'm presenting my nostalgia for the past in a concept album form with two other people who share that kind of same reverence for British dance culture. Like it's perfectly valid as Vaporwave, even if jungle might not have been part of the original kind of rule book, shall we say. But yeah,
I fully agree with you. I don't know.
You got me all emotional, Jon. You got me all emotional.
I know. It's just like a self-help podcast for dads now, isn't it?
Yeah. It is. We're like a talking group. I wanted to say the word core memory.
Yeah.
What you described, those are like core memories, and now we see them with our own kids, and who knows, they will use that if they ever make music. They will use things that they say like, oh, my dad did this and that with me, and I wrote a song about it. Like that's kind of what we're doing.
I reckon Poppy's going to do an album about Peppa Pig. Sorry.
You're documenting things for your kids to discover and hopefully enjoy. Do you consciously feel that? Yeah,
sometimes I do. Yeah.
That's really lovely.
Maybe also because I like my dad always had a lot of home videos from vacations and such. And I kind of want to give River also those memories or those feelings, like, look, here we have a home video. Like, I know that you can make a video on your phone and then show it, but an actual home video, I mean, that's pretty cool, isn't it?
Super powerful. Have you seen the film Goodbye Lenin?
Yes, I have. Yes.
Yeah, you know the whole
Great
sections
film.
when it kind of flashes back to the past and he's remembering like summers with his family. It's in East Germany, isn't it? And there's like this kind of like 8mm style classic film footage, memory kind of sequences. That I always think is just like amazingly nostalgic. It immediately takes you to another era. My mum's got some photos of when she lived in Germany as a kid that look really grainy and like just somehow like seem like another world, which of course it is because it was Germany and it was in the early 70s, but it kind of just looks like a million years ago. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's why everyone was also into lomography and Instagram filters.
Yeah.
VHS filters. Like
it all comes back to nostalgia.
Yeah, exactly. We can all tie it back to just that word, nostalgia.
Yeah. Can we finish with a couple of quick fire questions? Well, some of them are silly. Just a couple of quick fire questions for you.
Sure.
Scott on Bandcamp. And he did have a couple of people chime in afterwards saying, yes, please, we want to hear the answer to this question. So it comes with some validification among the community. Scott has asked if you have any cats, and if so, are any of them planning to release an album? And sticking with feline theme, Dionysus, forgive me if I'm pronouncing this wrong, Dionysus Virus wondered if they wear little cat business suits because they're part of a cat corporation. That's very good. Very good, guys. Do you have any cats? Are any of them planning to release albums? Do they wear suits?
Yeah, and do they wear suits?
Yes, they wear suits. They actually made a new concept album. I've been using my synth all the time. It's like, and I have to say, like, guys, can you move? I have to work here. Like, no, we're recording. No, I have one cat here in Finland, and 2 of my own cats are still with my parents. The one here is called Cersei, named after Queen Cersei from Game of Thrones.
Lovely.
She is, well, not exactly like her, but yes, she is a queen, absolutely.
She's tyrannical.
Yes, demanding. Like, if you don't feed her at 8 o'clock in the evening, she's going to be there like, hey, seeing the clock?
That sounds like my dog, Harry.
Yeah.
He pops up around 6 o'clock, which is always when we're doing the kids' bath and bedtime kind of thing. Yeah. Starts barking, the bastard.
And they don't know daylight saving time. They don't know what that is. Though suddenly they're there at 7 o'clock. I'm like, what are you doing here? Like, oh yeah, you think it's still 8.
Yeah.
But the business suits, absolutely.
Business suits,
That's true. They do wear those. Yeah.
Okay.
They are part of the Corp.
Well, thank you for embracing these in the spirit in which they were, delivered.
Silly questions, yeah.
Yeah, I got 2 more questions very quickly for you. Grease Factory has asked if you've got any plans to revisit the Palm Mall series in the future, and Matt 40R also touches on Palm Mall, asking if you're planning on reissuing the first in the series. Apparently, you said once that you do want to, but you wanted to make some changes. I don't know what those changes would have been, but are you still? Are you going to revisit Palm Mall? And are you going to reissue the first one?
Yeah, let me start with the last question about reissuing 1 and 2. Let's call them 1 and 2.
Yeah.
I kind of want to do that, even though it has become more tricky to release that kind of music to vinyl, so to say.
Sample based.
Yeah, but I have to do some changes. Unfortunately, there's only one time I received an email saying like, hey, you used a track that is not yours. It's like, oh, sorry. And then we deleted it. Luckily, nothing came from it. So I can't use that track anymore. I think it's from the B side.
Okay.
Track 3 or 4. You can see on Bandcamp that there's one track missing. I do really want to repress those, but there's this very famous pressing plant somewhere in Central Europe that likes to hoist a certain flag, so to say. Yes.
Yeah.
I won't name. I believe they have stopped releasing Vaporwave to vinyl, so we'll have to find other ways. I mean, we're internet punks. We'll find a way.
I can definitely help you with that, mate. Don't you worry about that.
Nice.
If you wanted to, we could definitely help you with that.
Yeah, but the first question. Yeah.
Yeah, the first question.
I have this feeling like people can somehow read my mind with these questions.
This is one of your 4 albums, isn't it?
And I have this idea that I have kind of started a couple years ago.
Wow.
Where it's, Pall Mall, working title is Pall Mall 64. Like
prequel.
Pall Mall, but in the 60s.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Not like Nintendo 64.
No. How that could be, yeah.
Yeah, do it with Mario sound font.
I think I've heard like Limousine doing mallsoft stuff that kind of includes, should we say, like 60s and 70s samples in.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. Also, Disconscious has some in his Hologram Plaza. That kind of made me, when I was unraveling that album on samples, and I was like, wait a minute, you can use literally everything. And some of those were 60s, and I used it on Pall Mall as well, on the first one. And it always kind of stuck with me. Like, I need to do something from the early days of malls.
Yeah.
And at that time, I was also a big fan of The Caretaker. Still am a big fan.
Yeah.
But when The Caretaker was not about dementia or liminal spaces or the back rooms, kind of like what it became when it was still about The Shining.
Yeah.
I had this idea of making a very, very dark Pall Mall album, like even name it like Pall Mall, the Great Fire, or the Great Fire of Pall Mall, where it burned down and you would hear these ghostly sounds after, like the shopping ghosts or whatever, and this detuned 60s music, like something totally not what you would expect. But then I thought, like, well, maybe that will throw off some people. But
that sounds rad.
All work and no play makes you onto dull boy.
See, true. We should maybe do something like that, like a very dark sounding.
I like it.
mallsoft album. I mean, why not?
Sounds wicked. That sounds wicked. Okay, shall we finish with one more question then?
Sure.
This is a great question from Grease Factory. If you weren't musically talented, or perhaps you're too modest to call yourself musically talented, if you weren't so musically minded, what other creative avenue do you think that you would pursue or would have pursued?
Oh, that is a good question. I also think about that sometimes. I'm not good at drawing.
Or what's next when the copyright police come and take you down?
What am I going to do then? I'm just going to sample artwork. Now, I don't know. I used to like doing graphic design. And nowadays with these asset graphics and all that kind of stuff, I feel like, I probably could have pursued something like that. Mm-hmm. It all comes down in time. Like, do we even have time to make that? But I was making a lot of art in the early Tumblr days. Like, the hashtag was INTAS for Internet Aesthetics. Mm-hmm. I would make a lot of artwork from that. And a funny thing is, I sometimes now see people releasing Vaporwave albums, and I see my Tumblr artwork snuck in there.
Wow.
Makes me kind of proud. So I think graphic design, and I also like growing plants, normal house plants. It's Finland where I live. I can't grow other plants. But maybe something like that. I don't know if you can call that artistic, but I like to grow houseplants. Yeah.
There we are.
That's a lovely answer. All your answers have been lovely.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. Thank you to well, thank you to you for joining us, and it's always fun to catch up.
Thank you.
We should definitely catch up more often, and we'll have you back in the future, no doubt, and hopefully have you to play another show in the future as well. But thank you as well to people who responded quite short notice today with some questions. Sorry we didn't get to all of them, but massive shout out to everyone who listens to the podcast. Leave us some 5-star reviews. And check us out on your platform of choice, and make sure you like and share everything. Come on.
I think we're 3 seasons in, and this is the first time we've ever done that.
Do you know, I listened to loads of podcasts, and I was listening today, and they were going, we don't do this often enough, but can you leave a 5-star review? And I was thinking, fuck, I've never done that.
Yeah, we've never done it.
We've never asked for it. So, we do need, help us reach more people in the vaporwave scene.
Thanks also to everybody who came to the live show recently as well. Much appreciated. We had an absolute blast. Yeah, you were missed there.
We were you one or two of your fans who picked up that T-shirt that you had on sale last year. They were there wearing them nice. Proud.
Yeah, that was the hottest item of the entire festival, wasn't it? The kind of metallic script.
Sort of lot. Yeah.
That's a wicked T-shirt.
We've definitely seemed to have built up like a little group of people who will travel. Like there's that German couple who've come from, was it Berlin?
Yes,
I think?
yes.
And they've been to every show.
I remember, yeah.
And like there's a handful of people who've been to every one so far. So it's amazing. Yeah, it's always like super appreciated, because we put a lot of work into trying making sure that these shows are fun and making sure these podcasts are interesting and stuff. And it's just great to hear back from a few people. We had a couple of people come up to us and say they really enjoy things like the echo chamber on the website, which we're going to try and do more regularly again, and kind of keep signposting the music that we're enjoying. But thank you, Jaunt. Best of luck. Enjoy your holiday. I hope that everything goes wonderfully, and that you don't have the same kind of... I'm getting messages right now from my partner saying that our second child is rather struggling to get to sleep. So I hope that you don't have the same issues we've had on that front.
Yeah, your presence is required.
Yeah. But until next time, we'll speak to you soon.
Until next time.
Cool.
Yeah, man.
Lovely stuff. Thanks, Jaunt. Thanks all.
Cheers, mate. Take care.